Hey everyone, I'm Mike Gaumer, founder and CEO of LabMODO. Today we're talking about operational challenges in your lab, how to identify them, measure them, and most importantly, fix them. Productive. Let me start with a few questions. How often do you repeat the same process over and over again without thinking about it? For most of us, the answer is a lot. Second question, how much time would you get back if those tasks were automated? Imagine no more digging through logbooks for an SOP, no more checking emails to see if you're up to date on training, no more worrying about that, CAPA deadline slipping through the cracks. Last question, if all that time came back to you, how much scientific value could you create? Because let's be real, you didn't get into this field to manage paperwork. You're here to do science, to uncover valuable insights and push your lab forward. But that's not possible when repetitive tasks aren't eating up your day. That's what we're diving into today. I've spoken to labs across the country and 3 operational drains come up over and over and over and over again. SOPs, raise your hand if you've been late on an SOP review. Or if your SOPs are just legal jargon that no one actually uses. Or if your team barely touches them at all. Second one is training. It's a drag. Real work is piling up, and the last thing your team wants is another refresher on lab safety. But as a leader, how do you know who's up to date and who's behind? And the last one is project management. For example, corrective actions require input from multiple people. How do you get it done without filling up everyone's inbox? These challenges aren't unique to any one industry. They're universal. And the solution is simple. You hear this a lot today. Systemic change, better technology, and automation. Over the next 15 minutes, I'll show you how the best labs are solving these problems today, freeing up their teams to focus on science and real value creation. Let's get started. We're starting with SOPs because let's be honest, most labs don't use them correctly. SOPs are supposed to be the backbone of how a lab operates. They define exactly how work gets done, ensuring consistency, compliance, and quality. But ask your team where to find an SOP and to see what happens. Some will say, it's in the binder. Others will say, I think it's in my email somewhere, and some won't even know. That's a huge problem. If an SOP isn't easy to find and use, it doesn't matter how well it's written because no one will follow it. The best labs don't just write SOPs for compliance, they make them an active part of daily work. SOPs should be built for the team, not just compliance. Too many labs write SOPs as a legal formality. The result? Long, dense documents filled with regulatory jargon. Instructions buried under pages of unnecessary information. SOPs that look great for an audit but don't actually help the team. Here's what best-in-class labs do differently. They write SOPs in a way that makes sense for the user. Step-by-step instructions come first. Key actions are bolded and easy to spot. They avoid unnecessary text, just clear, direct guidance. They structure SOPs for fast navigation. No one should have to scroll through 20 pages to find the one step they need. Everything is broken into clear sections. Checklists and forms are linked directly. No hunting for attachments. They format SOPs for how work actually happens. If a process is performed at a workstation, the SOP is optimized for screen reading. If it's done on paper, the printed versions are formatted clearly. The goal, make SOPs usable, not just compliant. By the way, I've got a gift for you at the end. I think a tool that will help you with your SOPs. Stay tuned. SOPs must be centralized and instantly accessible. If it takes more than 10 seconds to find an SOP, that's a failure. Yet in most labs, SOPs are buried in shared drives that no one can navigate, scattered across emails and paper binders, stored in multiple versions, leading to confusion over which one is correct. The best labs fix this by making SOPs stored in one place, a single searchable system. Digitally accessible, no hunting through binders or shared folders, and linked directly to work. If an SOP is needed for a task, it appears automatically. For example, need to complete a calibration? The SOP pops up right then and there. Got assigned a new process? The training links directly to the relevant SOP. This eliminates the classic problem of, I didn't know there was an update. SOP reviews should be proactive, not a fire drill. Raise your hand again if you've ever been late on an SOP review. It happens because most labs rely on memory or spreadsheets to track review dates. That means SOP reviews only happen when someone remembers. Deadlines sneak up, forcing teams to rush updates. Some SOPs stay outdated for months or even years. Top labs automate SOP review tracking so they never fall behind. Renewal cycles are preset and reminders go out automatically. Teams get alerts before an SOP expires, not after. Audits are stress-free because nothing is out of date. Instead of scrambling to update SOPs right before an inspection, these labs stay ahead of the game. All right, what's the takeaway? SOPs should do what they were designed for, making life easier. Write them for the user, not just compliance. Make them easy to find and use. Automate updates and reviews. When labs fix this, the impact is huge. Fewer mistakes, faster work, no more wasted time chasing documents. Now, you ready to move on? Let's go to the next big challenge, training. Now let's talk about something even less exciting, but just as critical, training. Be honest. How many of you have ever delayed or skipped a training module because you were too busy with real lab work? Your team probably feels the same way. Training feels like a distraction. It's something you have to do, but it rarely feels useful. And because of that, it doesn't get the attention it deserves until it becomes a problem. Here's the thing, training is one of the biggest risks in your lab. Missing a training record can shut down operations. A technician working out of compliance can invalidate results. A failed audit due to missing training logs can cost thousands. And yet, most labs handle training like an afterthought. They assign it manually, track it in spreadsheets, and rely on email reminders that everyone ignores. The best labs don't do this. They build training into the workflow so that it happens naturally without relying on people to remember to do it. Make training happen automatically, not manually. Let's break down the traditional training process that I see all the time. Step 1, someone gets an email with a training assignment. Step 2, they dig through folders or shared drives to find the right SOP. Step 3, they complete the training but forgot to update the tracker. Step 4, here comes an audit, and no one can prove it was completed. Does this sound familiar? It's messy, inefficient, and full of gaps. Top labs eliminate these steps completely by making training happen automatically. New hire, the system assigns them the required trainings the moment they start. SOP update, everyone affected gets a training reminder tied directly to the new version. Upcoming audit, training records are always up to date with zero manual tracking. This is a game changer. No more chasing people. No more guessing. No more scrambling before an inspection. Instead of spending time tracking training, you spend time doing training. Turn training from a task into a built-in process. Let's talk about why people hate training. For most labs, training is too long. Hours of content could be condensed into 10 minutes. It's too generic. It covers broad topics, but doesn't help with real lab work. It's too separate. It's treated as a one-off task instead of part of daily operations. Great labs flip this model upside down. Training is short, focused, and job-specific. It's tied directly to real lab tasks, so it doesn't feel like a waste of time. It happens inside the workflow, not as a separate chore. Think about it. Would you rather A, sit through 45-minute refresher on chemical safety principles, or B, get a 90-second, in-the-moment training pop-up right before handling a hazardous material? Labs that use contextual just-in-time training have higher retention. People actually remember what they learned. Higher engagement because it feels useful, and fewer compliance issues because training happens naturally. Instead of dumping training into a big pile of things to do, the best labs integrate it into daily work. Stop chasing training records. Now let's talk about the biggest training headache, tracking and reporting. Most labs still track it in spreadsheets, which are always outdated, or paper records, which are impossible to search, email chains, which no one checks until it's too late. This doesn't work. Top labs don't just assign training, they track it in real time. Managers have instant visibility. They know exactly who's up to date and who's not. Automated alerts flag upcoming deadlines, so training gaps are caught early. Audit-ready reports are always available. No scrambling to gather proof. If you can't pull up real-time training records in seconds, you're at risk. It's that simple. All right, what's the training takeaway? It's not just a requirement. It's a foundation for running a smooth, compliant lab. The best labs solve the training by automating assignments and tracking, no more manual work. Embedding training into the real work, so it's useful, not just a chore, and making compliance effort so audits are stress-free. The impact? Less time chasing records, more time doing real work, zero compliance gaps. Now, let's move on to the last challenge, maybe my favorite, project management. We've talked about SOPs, how to make them usable. We've talked about training, how to automate it. Now, let's talk about something that ties everything together, project management. Every lab has ongoing tasks that require multiple people to get things done. Corrective actions, manager meetings, vendor evaluations, incident reports. These aren't just to-dos. They're critical tasks that keep your lab running smoothly. But here's the problem. Most labs don't have a structured way to manage them. Instead, teams rely on email chains, spreadsheets, and scattered notes. Sound familiar? The risks of poor project management. Here's what happens when there's no clear system. Missed deadlines. Nobody knows when something is due until it's overdue. Communication breakdowns. Emails get lost. Important details slip through the cracks. Accountability issues. It's unclear who owns a task. No one owns it. And then quality compromises. Rushed or incomplete work can create compliance issues. The worst part, no one realizes there's a problem until it's too late. So how do the best labs solve this? They use a structured system that automates project management. I feel like I'm starting to get repetitive. How the best labs get project management right. Instead of scrambling to figure out who needs to do what, by, when, and how, the best labs follow a step-by-step workflow that keeps projects moving. Start with a clear project structure. Every project starts the same way. Admin creates a new project, defines the type. Is it Kappa, a meeting, a vendor review, etc. They add a clear description, no vague instructions, just exactly what needs to happen. They assign a project manager. Someone is in charge from start to finish. Set a due date, no guessing, no uncertainty. This sets the foundation for everything that follows. Let's get the right people on this project, right? Once the project is created, the project manager steps in. They assess what's needed, what information, resources, or approvals are required. They assign the right support team. Not everyone needs to be involved, just the key players. Maybe it's lab director, maybe it's QC manager, maybe it's technicians, who knows? This eliminates bottlenecks and ensures that only the right people are working on the project. Make execution as simple as possible. Now, the team knows exactly what they need to do. Support team completes requirements, tasks like root cause analysis, action plans, and effectiveness testing. They submit back to the project manager. There's no loose ends. Everything goes through one final review. Each project type has a structured template so that nothing is missing. What you need to include for a Kappa is different than what you need to include for a manager meeting. This is huge. It forces the team to provide all relevant details up front, no back and forth and no wasted time. Ensure quality before closing the project. Before a project is finalized, the project manager does one last check. They review the work, ensure everything meets the lab standards. They submit to the admin for approval. If expectations are met, the project is closed. If something's missing, the admin can send it back for updates. This prevents mistakes from slipping through and ensures that everything is done right the first time. Why does this matter? Labs that use this system have fewer delays, fewer errors, and a lot less stress. Here's why it works. Clear process from start to finish, no confusion over who's doing what. Automated notifications, everything gets updates at the right time. Built-in accountability, no more, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. and real-time tracking. No surprises, no scrambling at the last minute. The result? Projects move forward smoothly instead of getting stuck in email limbo. Final thought. If you've ever had a corrective action sitting open for months because no one knew what to do next, or if you've had to chase people down for approvals just to close a project, this is the fix. A structured, automated workflow keeps everything organized, keeps your team accountable, and keeps your lab moving forward. Now, let's wrap this up. Let's bring it all together. We've covered a lot today. Let's take a step back and focus on the big picture. Labs don't struggle with SOPs, training, and project management because they don't care about them. They struggle because these processes were never built for efficiency. They were built for compliance. But the best labs, the ones that run smoothly, avoid fire drills, and get the most out of their teams, do things differently. I'm going to give you the key takeaways to wrap this whole thing up. You've heard them before. I want you to hear them one more time. SOPs should be built for the user, not just compliance. If your team can't find them or doesn't use them, they're useless. The best labs make SOPs centralized, searchable, and structured for real work. Training should be automatic, not manual. No more spreadsheets, emails, or hoping people remember. Training should be assigned, tracked, and completed without guesswork. Project management needs structure and automation. Relying on email chains and memory leads to missed deadlines and compliance risks. Systematic workflows ensure tasks get done correctly and on time. Here's the bottom line. Labs should be focused on science, not administrative headaches. That's exactly why we built LabMODO, to help labs eliminate the friction in these processes so they can run smarter and faster. If anything we've talked about today sounds familiar, if your team is spending too much time tracking down SOPs, chasing training records, or managing projects through email, there's a better way. Here's my final offer. It's a free gift for you. Before we wrap up, I want to give you something valuable. If today's webinar got you thinking about how to improve your lab's processes, let's keep the conversation going. Here's my offer. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Michael Gaumer, and include the word SOP in your message. When you do, I'll send you the perfect SOP template by LabMODO completely free. This template will help you structure your SOPs so your team actually uses them. No strings attached, just a tool you can start using right away. Again, just send me a connection request on LinkedIn with SOP in the message and I'll send the template over. Thanks again for your time today. I appreciate it and I'm looking forward to connecting.